Well, one of the reasons why we changed our name to the Center for Art and Wood is because we've always encouraged our artists to use whatever processes or materials it takes to create their ideas. Don't be necessarily restricted by the process of turning or wood. And this has really exemplified itself through two programs: our residency program and our challenge shows. And you'll see in our collection things that seemingly don't have anything to do with turning. And they may not have anything to do with turning, but that experience that artists had in turning, for example, one person said, turning taught me all about form. So no matter what I do now, I know a whole lot about form. I may not be using the label. So and we felt if we were going to be pushing the field, our name should reflect that. And so we've been talking about this for years, that Wood Turning Center doesn't reflect the exhibitions that we put on. So it's been well received, and when this idea came up of doing fish decoys, it was actually lures. And there's a difference between them. A lure can have a hook on it, which the fish grabs and gets caught on. A lure, like these, lure the fish to, it's a decoy. It decoys the fish, like brings the fish to it like it's going to eat it. But right before it grabs it, the spear, the fisherman with the spear spears the fish. Now, originally the lures, I'll show you one, were mass produced on a lathe. So that was our literally hook in the turn. And then we moved into other areas. I'll explain more about that when we get into the life. But there's two shows here. The first show is history, contemporary use of lures for ice fishing. Tina, can you explain what ice fishing was?
Well, I put out the photographs and basically how they make them. And most of these are made of wood, right? That's the other direct link. These are made of wood and then they're painted up realistically or very colorful.
And also other materials are used in it. And it's a really great history about ice fishing. Ice fishing, there's a hut that you put onto the ice. These huts are passed down from one generation to the other. And they stake out their spot on the lake. They cut a hole, and then they have a little heater in there. And then they sometimes they have a flashlight, but usually the light from the heater lights up the room. And you'll see a picture there of the lure, and then the fish come into it. And literally, like that spear right there, you take the spear and you spear the fish. Just like that guy did next to that image. Now, they say while the fisherman was in there and the oxygen was getting low and the carbon dioxide from the heater was in there, it started to make them hallucinate. And they started thinking differently about their lures. So that's why you see some wild colors. They came up with our lures. Decoys. I keep getting mixed up. These decoys, they think that, well, they'll attract the fish, and sometimes they do. They will also add aluminum fins because there's reflection in the water, and that will attract the fish. So that's why you get these different materials. And the one that I love the most is this one right here. This is the one that you can see right through one of the fins. And that's because it's plastic. Okay. So just like the turners today, we're all getting wood and turning because it's a small process part of making the object. They're getting into surface decoration and other materials. So we invited 6 artists to respond to the theme of this show about life aquatic and ice fishing. And that's what this show here is about. So before we go over there, if you have any questions about this work here, I can make up an answer. But some of these... How
many artists?
Well, we actually only invited 6. And what we've decided to do in our exhibitions, we decided to do more exhibitions where there's fewer artists, but each artist is able to make a body of work. it gives them an opportunity to really explore an area rather than just one piece. So, different from our early challenge shows where we ask everybody to enter and then we select it. There may be 40 different people in the show. So this kind of show gives 6 artists the opportunity to do a body of work. In fact, some artists say, I knew nothing about this subject, but I'm really intrigued by it now. And I may start losing the fish. So let's go over here. And I'll talk about this one first. I want to stand around it. This is made by Michael Forrest, and he was an IT resident last year. You may remember him. He went to Ghana for the summer to work with these coffin makers. And this is based on the coffin tradition that's in Ghana. And what happened, these coffin makers were approached, I forget how many years ago, by a family whose father passed away. He was a very famous fisherman. And they wanted to honor him in some special way and bury him. So they commissioned the coffin makers to make a large fish. And it would open up and the body would be put into the fish and buried. So Michael was really interested in this process. And he learned the construction of coffins. During the IT program, he made a figure that you see in the store. That stand-up figure. If you look at the back of it, the front of it is a very smooth body. On the back of it, you see the construction. And this does open up. I can't open it now. This is his interpretation of one of the coffins. Now, this is much smaller than a normal coffin. Also, there's a twist to it to give motion to the fish. But this is his way of using that idea. And these fishing lures here, and the wall piece, and that wall piece, and the wall piece behind you, were all made by Merrill Salem, along with that construction there, which we'll talk about. But the one here is called Fishing Upstream, or Swimming Upstream. It actually depicts an area right near her, outside Berkeley, where there's a small channel where the fish swim in between these two currents. And that's what that piece represents. So it gave her, she never was into the subject, but she was really taken back by it. And these are our first attempt at decoys. And what's great about us doing these shows, there's this cross-pollination, not just of ideas between artists. What I meant to say about this show, some of these decoys just came out of the work. These guys were using them for fishing and for competition, and they came very, really close to the opening of the show. But what happens is collectors, in particular, one collector came here and because of the show, and immediately wanted to buy a bunch of his work, but then walked into this area and knew nothing about this contemporary art form. And he bought 5 pieces out of here. And all of a sudden now he's a collector of contemporary craft and art. And so we broadened our audience of collectors. Let's go over here, right behind you in that window there. For some reason, Merrill Salem and her husband collected all these objects. They were not fishermen, but if you look in there, if you have anybody here to do fishing?
Yeah, it looks very familiar to me.
Yeah.
It's like a tackle box from Canada.
It looks like a tackle box, right. And some of it was in a tackle box. And this fishing lure there, they were mass produced on a lathe. Okay? So she said, Albert, just move. And I was going to throw all this stuff away. And then you give me this challenge to be in this show. I'm just going to make an art piece out of all this stuff. So it gave me an idea that I may do a show called Stuff. And anything that you want to throw away, you have to make an art piece out of it. But she made this little cabinet of curiosities.
Now, when we went to Canada, we always had 3 of them or 4 in our tackle box. Looked about like that.
Uh-huh.
That's what the pike always hit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's familiar stuff.
Even the L&M cigarettes. And
Yeah.
back then we smoked. A lot of people smoked. Or this little heating pack.
Yeah.
Hand warmer. So that was her contribution. And then Michael Hoslick, the crazy guy he is, he had to interpret the lore in those really funny pieces. And I really have to thank Ron, our director of exhibitions and collections, and our designer to come up with this great display. To me, it looks like you're walking into an aquarium. But now we have a great challenge. We spent a lot of money for this display. How do you use them? So Tina came up with an idea that they're going to be moved, some of these are moving to the museum store for Christmas. And we may have a Christmas tree ornament challenge. Artists. If you look at the one in the window right there, take a look at it and tell me what you see.
Which one now?
The one right there,
The plate?
a plate. And what's the title?
Fossilized.
Fossilized. So,
See a fish.
fossilized into the wood, you'll see some fish.
Fish.
So I've counted 3 fishes.
One there.
At least
Big
on that
one there,
section.
little one there. Here's another one here. 1, 2, 3.
And then one that I really love is in the front window. The fish sandwich, no mayo. The collector of the fishing lures came in, and he said, "I have to have that because I don't like mayo on my fish either." So that's why he bought that. Decoys, I keep getting confused here. But again, showing how creative Michael is.
Before I looked at it before.
He epitomizes the use of turning. And if you look right here, these are not wood turners, but they were made from wood turners. You turn these forms and wrap them. And with that rawhide,
Yeah.
you wrap them around that when they're wet to form a form. And feel free to pick one up if you need. And then I'll charge you for it. It's very light. Yeah, they're really clever. And in this case here, it's 2 artists. You may remember Satoshi. He was an IT resident from Japan. And Janelle Jacobson. They both took the theme quite literally. Janelle made different types of fish, and Satoshi made all types of life form. And I really like how Ron put a mirror on the bottom here, because you really have to see the bottoms of these pieces. All the way around the piece. There's no detail or surface left untouched by Satoshi. And never start off as turnings. He likes to use the lathe as a rough turning out tool, a roughing tool. It's a quick way to getting to a form. And then he spends a lot of time with the Dremel tool, carving and detailing the pieces. Now on the wall in the front window here, they do deer or buffalo or whatever. They went to a carver, a wood carver, to carve a fish to portray the fish they caught. Okay, so you had a carving replica of a big fish that you caught, and he started that whole tradition, and that's one of his samples. So that's a sample of the fish that somebody caught. He was really proud of it. It was really big, heavy fish. And that's what he caught trophy fish. And right above it is a spear, typical of what the fishermen would use to spear the fish. So any other questions about the work in this area? Okay, if you don't have questions, I'm going to give you a quiz. So, what I'm going to let you do, if you want to do this now, is to go up and see the permanent collection. Ron is upstairs and he's